Welcome learners to the fifth session of the problem solving session of Ecology and Environment course. So in this session we'll first discuss the answers to some of the MCQ questions of week 4, and then we'll talk about today's topic, which will be water related illness and water pollution. So in the last session I've given you 4 to 5 questions as home assignments. So you were supposed to find answers to those questions. So I'll discuss the answers one by one. So in the last session, we discussed about climate change, UNFCCC and the NAPCC. So the first question was, which of the following contributes to energy related CO2 emissions from buildings? So when we talk about the GHG emission loads that is related to your residential or the your commercial complexes, so in that case you have to identify which of the following processes will contribute to CO2 emissions. Energy demand for heating and cooling, electricity consumption for lighting and appliances, rising air conditioner ownerships, only first or second, or all of the above. So the answer will be all of the above, because all these factors will contribute to CO2 emissions in one way or the other. Consumption of electricity, then increase in air conditioner usage, these all factors, they contribute to CO2 emissions from the buildings. So in the next question, which of the following is not a measure to protect the climate system? So different options are provided, and you had to identify the option which will not contribute towards protection of the climate system. So first is use of renewable and non-renewable energy sources. So this will be the answer, because we have to increase the use of renewable sources, and we have to reduce the reliance on non-renewable energy forms or the conventional energy forms. So the answer will be A. And with respect to other options, we have protection of GHG sinks and reservoirs. So obviously that will protect the climate system when you are trying to protect and conserve the GHG sinks of GHG emissions. Reduction of transport and waste management related emissions, and policy reforms to support GHG reductions. So all the other three options, they will help you to protect the climate system in a direct or indirect way. The next question asks to identify the mission which is not considered under NAPCC. So in the last session we discussed that NAPCC is the National Action Plan on Climate Change, which was launched in 2008 in India, and it aims to tackle, or it aims to develop programs so that it to help India achieve the emission related targets. So there are 8 different missions under NAPCC. Which of the following is not a mission? So National Mission on Sustainable Development, it is not a mission which is being considered under NAPCC. Now the next question is, which ministry has undertaken the National Mission for a Green India? So the table here represents all the 8 different missions, and we discussed in the last class how different ministries are responsible for supervising these missions. So for the mission on Green India, the responsible ministry is Ministry of Environment and Forest. So the correct answer will be B. Now the last question is, which of the following actions could you take to help lessen the impacts of climate change? Biking, walking or carpooling and using public transportation, saving water by using low flow fixtures, reducing food waste, or getting involved with the local governments. So all of these factors, they will help you to reduce the impacts of climate change. So the answer will be fifth. So now moving towards the today's topic, that is water related illness and water pollution. So water pollution is a very common topic with which you all have a very good would have a good knowledge about this topic. So there are some statistics initially which I have mentioned here to help you get familiarized with the occurrence of water related illness. So you can see that 80% of the diseases worldwide are waterborne. So this is the data which has been released by the WHO. So it is quite a large number where we see that 80% of total diseases which are occurring around the globe, so 80% are waterborne in nature. Waterborne means it is getting transmitted or you're getting that disease due to contact with polluted water, right? Now, this consumption of unhygienic water or coming in contact with this unhygienic water, it leads to 1.5 to 12 million deaths per year. So, which is surprisingly quite a large number. So, you see 12 million people are dying. So, the mortality rate is quite high. So, the occurrence of water related illness is very high and also the mortality rates are high. Thus, you need to create or you need to improve the treatment systems so that such kind of waterborne diseases could be reduced. Now you see there are two figures. So these figures demonstrate how people are getting resorted to consumption of dirty water. Now the major reason for this is water scarcity. Because there is scarcity of water, ultimately people have to consume dirty water for their daily purposes. Now, these were the global statistics. When we talk with respect to India, the situation is relatively similar. In India's potable water has been ranked 120th out of 122 nations. So this is as per the UN report. Because and why is this so? Because 70% of the water resources in India are contaminated. Now, due to this consumption of such contaminated water, around 70 million cases of waterborne diseases were reported during 2013 to 17. So you can see that during a 5-year span, there was 70 million cases which were reported. So originally there could have been more, maybe around 80 to 90 million cases. So this is a huge number, and this led to around 11,000 deaths during the 5-year span. So not only there is hampering of the livelihood, but there is also hampering of the nation's economy, because due to such diseases there is loss of working days. For instance, during the 5-year span, 73 million working days were lost. Now the major diseases identified during this analysis or during this study were cholera, diarrhea and typhoid. So these are very common diseases, and diarrhea is the most common, which is responsible and also the most fatal, because it is responsible for 60% of deaths. So you see diarrhea caused 6,500 deaths during the 7-year span, and it was the top reason for under 5 mortality. So it means mortality under 5 years of age. So these data, they reveal the grim situation of the waterborne diseases and water pollution in the Indian subcontinent as well. So now, due to the this widespread occurrence of diseases, there is a global concern regarding treatment of water and keeping the water bodies or the free from pollution. So due to this, the government has taken many initiatives. So many efforts are being done by the national level, at the international level, and also by various non-governmental organizations. For instance, the National Green Tribunal in India, it stated that 100% treatment of sewage is required before the sewage is being dumped into the, or before that treated water is being dumped into the rivers. So initially it was observed that around 70 to 80% of the sewage that is being generated throughout in India, so it is discharged directly into the water bodies without any treatment, or it is partially treated. So with respect to that, NGT declared that if such kind of 100% treatment is not achieved, then there will be a penalty of 5 lakh per month per drain in the Ganges. So this was because of the high pollution level of rivers in the country. So similarly, when we talk about the global scale, a project was launched together by UNESCO and Water Quality and Health Council, known as the Global Water Pathogen Project. So its main aim was to prevent the exposure of humans to pathogens in wastewater. So what are pathogens? Pathogens are basically any microorganisms that have the ability to cause disease. For example, the world has faced recently COVID-19 disease and the pathogen was SARS-CoV-2. So it is a causative agent that is called as pathogen. So the main aim of this project was to prevent the contact between the humans and the contaminated waters so that the waterborne diseases can be reduced. So these three slides, they indicate the overall statistics of water related illness across the globe, across the country, and the initiatives that have been taken by the um, government and the non-government bodies. So now when we talk about waterborne diseases, we have to understand why this water is getting contaminated, what are the causes of this water contamination or water pollution, and what are the major effects. So water pollution is defined as addition of any substance directly or indirectly which can alter the nature of water so that it renders it unsuitable for use. So you are hampering the nature of that water or the characteristics of that water so that it is not fit for any kind of usage. That is called as water pollution. So you can see these three figures, they represent different kinds of substances that are being or different types of pollutants that are being dumped into the water. So the first figure represents the dumping of untreated sewage, which is completely black in color. It is not at all treated and it is being discharged directly into the water body. So obviously it will have lot of pathogens and it will destroy the property of the receiving water body. Similarly, in the second figure, you can see a lot of solid waste is being dumped into the water body. So not only the liquid waste, but also the solid waste is converting your rivers into large dustbins. So there are different kinds of pollutants which contaminate the water bodies, but the last figure represents that people are still resorting to use such polluted water because overall there is scarcity. So how can this problem be solved? This can be solved only if appropriate wastewater treatment is achieved so that you get a safe treated water for recycling and reusing purposes. So the treatment has to be efficient and up to the mark. Now when we talk about water pollution types, so there are basically two types of water pollution, non-point sources and point sources. So as the name suggests, point source of water pollution is a pollution in case where we can identify the source, like what is the source of the pollution. But in non-point source, the pollution occurs due to many diffuse points. So it is difficult to trace the exact source of the pollutant. So you can see in the first figure there are different examples. So the non-point source of water pollution, it includes like the pollutants which are coming from farms or lawns, or which is coming from residential or the commercial complexes. But if we talk about point sources, it can be the effluent from a sewage treatment plant or an industrial plant, because you can pinpoint a particular source from which the pollutant is being discharged into the water body. Now the figure also represents different kinds of pollutants like fertilizers, herbicides. They can be released from the farms or agricultural lands. Then from the sewage treatment plants, the effluent that is coming into the water body, it can have nutrients, waste or bacteria. Similarly, there can be oil spills from oil tankers. So these are different kinds of pollutants which are coming from different point and non-point sources. Now coming towards the major water pollutants. So there are different categories for water pollutants like oxygen demanding waste, infectious agents, chemicals and radioactive materials. So the major categories have been we'll discuss here. So first is the oxygen demanding waste. So oxygen demanding waste, it is the waste for which more and more oxygen is required, and we'll study it in detail in the next later section. So the main source is sewage, paper mills or food processing, so which will be organic waste or the organic debris. The infectious agents are the pathogens which are capable of causing your diseases. So it will include different kinds of pathogens like bacteria, viruses, parasitic worms, and the source will be human and animal waste. Then there can be inorganic chemicals and organic chemicals. So inorganic chemicals will mainly come from the industrial effluent, and the organic chemicals. So industrial industries are the majorly responsible for such kind of discharge. Inorganic chemicals can include acids and metals, and organics can include pesticides or solvents. Then we have the radioactive materials. So radioactive materials basically come during they're emitted during the mining process. For example, during coal mining, thorium is released. Then apart from mining, the radioactive material can also be released or emitted from the nuclear power plants. So these are also very crucial because the contact of humans with such kind of pollutant, it can cause genetic disorders, and that genetic disorders can occur over many generations. Now besides these, we also have plant nutrients. So plant nutrients is a kind of water pollutant. It leads to eutrophication of water bodies. So we'll discuss eutrophication as well. Major nutrients are nitrates and phosphates, and mainly they come from the agricultural runoff. Besides these, the pollutants can also be eroded sediments like soil and silts, and there can also be thermal pollution of the water body due to the hot water which is being discharged into the water body from the power plants. So these are the major water pollutant categories. That is your oxygen demanding waste, infectious agents, chemicals, and radioactive materials. So now we'll discuss about oxygen demanding waste. So if there is waste which is having lot of organic matter, so there will be high population of microorganisms. So this will require consume lot of oxygen, and ultimately the oxygen content of the water will get depleted. Now if this oxygen concentration is getting reduced beyond a certain level, or it becomes highly insufficient, then the aquatic life which is dependent on this oxygen, it will not be able to survive. So there will be death of fishes and other aquatic fauna. Now when we talk about oxygen, we have to consider the biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD. So BOD is a very common parameter that is used for water quality analysis, and it is mostly expressed as BOD5. So BOD5 is the milligram of oxygen which is required for 1 liter of sample when we incubate it for 5 days at 20 degrees Celsius. So BOD generally represents the water quality or the degree of organic pollution in water. So the table here, you can see on the right side, it represents different BOD levels, and correspondingly it relates it to the water quality. So the BOD is very less, so the water quality will be very good because there is less organic matter. Similarly, if the BOD is 100 or greater, so the water is highly polluted. So this was all about the oxygen demanding waste. Now moving towards the infectious agents. So when we talk about infectious agents, mostly in this infectious agents have the ability to cause diseases in humans, right? So these are human pathogens. So here are some examples of human pathogens like Cryptosporidium or Giardia, viruses, and worms. Now you can see how humans come in contact with these pathogens. The bottom two diagrams, they represent how the humans can come in contact with such kind of infectious agents. So the first figure represents a manhole cover which is unable to contain a sanitary sewer overflow. So now this may be due to some kind of floods. There is a sewer overflow, and all the wastewater or the pathogen laden wastewater, it is unable to be contained within that manhole. So obviously this water, when it will come in contact with any human, it will cause disease, right? So similarly, if such kind of contaminated water is used for irrigation purposes, or it is used it is reused maybe for washing vegetables. So if we use any kind of contaminated water, which has pathogens in it, so it will obviously cause diseases. Similarly, in the second figure, you see there is no appropriate system for sewage treatment. So it is just being dumped into the ground. So ultimately, gradually what will happen with time, the pathogens from the sewage, it can pass through the matrix into the groundwater. And when this groundwater is again extracted for different kind of purposes, so that will, the consumption of such contaminated water will lead to disease. Now these diseases are very crucial to, they are very critical and they're very fatal. So we have already seen the statistics of waterborne diseases, how around they're causing so much, like 80 million diseases are being reported, or 11,000 deaths are occurring within India. And the numbers are even larger when we talk on the global scale. So that is why we have to understand such kind of um, concepts. So for instance, this Salmonella species, it causes typhoid fever, which is very common, and mainly foodborne illness. Now the Burkholderia pseudomonella, it causes melioidosis. So you see this disease is responsible, it is associated with 50% mortality even with treatment. So it is a very severe disease which can cause, which has 50% chances of death even after treatment. And this is a waterborne disease. Similarly, the figure here represents that drinking contaminated water causes cholera, so which is caused by an agent called Vibrio cholerae. So these is just some examples to show you how the consumption of contaminated water can actually cause to various life-threatening diseases. Now the infectious agents we talked about, they are basically bacteria, viruses and protozoa. So viruses are very common. They, everyone know about viruses. Bacteria is also common. Most common is Escherichia or Salmonella. Then apart from these two, there is also some other pathogens which are called as protozoa. They basically enter wastewater through inefficient disinfection of domestic wastewater, or they can also come through food processing industry, livestock industries, or from poultry wastewater. So through different routes, they can waste enter into the municipal wastewater, and if that is left untreated, it can come in contact with the humans. And now the slide here again represents the major waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea and typhoid. These are very common, in most common disease in India. They are caused by bacteria. Then hepatitis and gastroenteritis, these are caused by viruses. Similarly, you have some diseases by protozoa and the helminths. So the most common is the bacterial disease. Now, the problem of this occurrence of pathogens in wastewater, it has also been recognized by WHO, and consequently WHO has released a priority pathogen list where the various disease causing agents, they have been grouped into three categories like critical, high and medium. So you see we talked about Campylobacter or Salmonella, these are in the second priority group. So this is just to exemplify that the occurrence of these waterborne pathogens and the associated disease, it's a global concern. Now, India's water scarcity problem. So these diseases are happening because we are consuming contaminated water. Then we are consuming contaminated water because there is scarcity of safe water or treated water. Now, these statistics have been released by Niti Aayog on World Environment Day 2022. So you can see that in 2030, the supply of water in India will be 744 BCM, whereas the demand is around 1500 BCM. So it is even more than half. So India will not be able to meet its demand, water demand by 2030. Now, similarly, the map here shows the water stressed regions in India. So you can see most of the metro cities and most of the states, they are facing the extreme water stress or extreme water scarcity. So Niti Aayog observed that by 2030, India will have less than half of the total demand for water. Now, 21 major cities, they will reach zero groundwater levels by 2030. Then India ranks third last among 122 countries in water quality index. That is a report released by UN, because 70% of the resources in India are contaminated. Now, due to water contamination, India has also become extremely dependent on monsoons. That is another problem, because monsoons are now very erratic due to climate change. So, apart from these, India has just 4% of freshwater resources, whereas it is home to about 18% of world's population. So, which is quite a large number. 18% of world's population live in this country, but it has just 4% of the freshwater sources. So, what is required is appropriate treatment of wastewater, so that we have a good quality water for recycling and reuse purposes. Right? So till now we have covered the global and national statistics of waterborne diseases. Then we talked a little bit about the agents that cause these diseases. Now we'll talk about the causes and effects of water pollution. So these different figures, they represent the major causes of water pollution. For example, one of the major causes is dumping of your house waste directly into the water bodies. Then the discharge of sewage into the water bodies is a major um, reason for water pollution. Apart from this, there are oil spills which are responsible for hampering the quality of oceans. Then there is also acid rain. So as the concept of acid rain is very common, NO2 and SO2, it gets mixed with water, and then we have H2SO4 and HNO3 as precipitation. So this ultimately disrupts the quality of the water bodies. Besides this, we have various kind of religious duties that are being performed in the water bodies, as well as cremations. So all these things, they lead to water pollution. Now, not only the liquid waste, but there is also dumping of large amount of solid waste. Then there is industries which are discharging the wastewater directly into the water bodies, or the thermal power plants which are directly discharging the hot water into the water bodies. So all these things, they affect the quality and the aquatic flora and fauna. Right. So after causes, what are the main effects of water pollution? So the first and foremost effect is death of aquatic life. So many species, or many aquatic species, they are getting endangered, and some have also become extinct due to this kind of water pollution. Then we have, due to high BOD, or when there is less oxygen, ultimately there will be death of various aquatic fauna and aquatic fishes as well. So apart from this, the major effect is there is less potable water, or there is no water, safe water for drinking purposes. Right? So these are the major effects of water pollution. Now we'll discuss two effects. One is eutrophication and another is biomagnification. So when we talk about eutrophication, the diagram here represents a healthy ecosystem versus a eutrophic ecosystem. So you see that in a healthy ecosystem, all the aquatic flora, fauna, as well as humans and the entire ecosystem is in balance. But when we talk about eutrophic ecosystems, there is release of large amount of nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, mainly from the agricultural lands, which ultimately leads to large growth of algal blooms. These blooms, they deplete the oxygen from the lower sections of the water bodies. So ultimately there is death of the benthic flora and fauna, and slowly and steadily the biomass starts getting decomposed, and the entire water body is converted into a eutrophied and converted into the land. So there is no ultimately there is no water left at the end of the eutrophication process. So now the second figure here also represents the entire cycle of eutrophication. So initially there is high amount of nutrient inflow in the water body, which leads to formation of algal blooms. Now due to this, there is mortality of the benthic flora because there is flora and fauna, because there is scarce oxygen content, and slowly and steadily the entire aquatic system is disrupted and the eutrophied system occurs. So now when we talk about this eutrophication process, so the major role in this eutrophication process, there are two main aspects. One is the discharge of large amount of nutrients, and another is formation of algal blooms. So when we talk about algae, like plants, they have chlorophyll by which they produce their food through photosynthesis process. So there is so ultimately the nutrient input, it is linked to algal growth, and that algal growth is measured as the chlorophyll concentration. So a relationship has been defined between chlorophyll concentration and total phosphorus in 1974, and that has been represented here. So chlorophyll concentration is, you can calculate it when you're having the total phosphorus content, and that will give you, this chlorophyll concentration will ultimately give you the indication about the algal growth, and that will help you to provide an insight into the eutrophication process. So besides eutrophication, another major process and major effect of water pollution is biomagnification. In biomagnification, suppose there is a pollutant X which is present in the water in a very small amount. Let's say 2 into 10 to the power minus 5 ppm, right? Now when this pollutant, it will travel through the food chain, like through phytoplankton, zooplankton, and different kinds of these fishes. So finally when it goes to the higher trophic levels, they will have a very high amount of the pollutant, so which will be dangerous and lethal for them. Similarly, in the second figure, you can see how the consumption of fishes through this, the final consumer, that is the human, it will have a very high concentration of the pollutant. So this is another major impact of water pollution, that biomagnification is taking place across different trophic levels or different consumers, from the smaller section to the final consumer, and that is why there is high concentration of the pollutant, and which is life threatening to the final or the top consumer. Now the figure here represents some of the real life examples of water pollution. For example, you can see in the first figure how this so much foaming has taken place in the river. So that is because a lot of industrial waste has been discharged into the river. So this is an example where industrial waste and raw sewage is discharged in a river in Mexico. So the river is passing from Mexico to California, and during that course, lot of industries are adding on their waste to this river, which is destroying its life completely. Now in the second figure, you can see that the fecal sludge, it has been collected, and this sludge is now being dumped in a river at Kenya. So which is destroying the property of the entire water body. Similarly, the this power station is discharging the hot water or the heated water indirectly into the water body. Then solid waste and plastics are also dumped into the water body. This is an example from Canada. In the next figure, you see there is a polluted river, and it is receiving the drainage from a nearby acid mine. So this is basically the acid mine drainage, which is coming from a copper mine. So it is completely disrupting the water characteristics. Now this figure represents the dumping of again solid waste in the Philippines coast, and the last figure again represents the dumping of solid waste in the in Ghana. So not only the liquid waste, now the solid waste management is also a very big issue, and many of the water bodies, they are getting converted into large dustbins just because all of the solid waste is being dumped directly into the water. So what are the major solutions and what can be done to prevent such kind of issues? So we can prevent groundwater contamination, greatly reduce the non-point runoffs. The wastewater treatment has to be improved, and also consecutively the reuse of such kind of treated water has to be increased. Then we can find substitutes for toxic pollutants. For example, in kind of solid waste, when we talk about plastic is a major pollutant, so we can find substitutes for them. First, we have to reduce the consumption, and secondly, we have to go for alternatives. Apart from these, use of fertilizers and pesticides can be reduced, and we can move towards the organic foods. Then the use of other harmful pollutants which are being discharged into the river bodies, like paint, solvents, oils, these all has to be their usage has to be reduced drastically if we want to prevent water pollution. So now moving towards the Q&A session. The first question is, so just to summarize, in today's session we discussed about water pollution, some statistics related to that, then the waterborne illnesses, and we also discussed about the various agents that are responsible for causing such kind of disease, right? So the first question is, water pollution is caused due to sewage and other waste, industrial effluents, agricultural discharge, or all of these. So obviously the answer will be all of these, because sewage is also disrupting the water body. Then you have various industries, and agricultural runoff is a major source of uh, nitrates and phosphates in the water body, which leads to eutrophication. So all of these are causing some or other kind of pollution in the water body. So the answer will be D, which will be all of these. Then the next question is, which of these is associated with water pollution? Increase in oxygenation, so which means there will be increase in oxygen content of the water body when it is being polluted. Then there is decrease in turbidity, then increase in turbidity and deoxygenation, and increase in photosynthesis of aquatic plants. So which of these will be associated with water pollution? So obviously the answer will be C, that is increase in turbidity. There will be an increase in turbidity and the oxygen content of the water body will decline. So there will be deoxygenation. Now next question is, which of the following is the chief source of water pollution? So which is the chief source of pollutants that are harming the water bodies? Agro industry, mining, thermal power stations, or all of these? So again the answer will be all of these, because pollutants are coming from agricultural industry as well. Then from mining you have acid mine drainage, from thermal power stations the heated water. So all of these will be the chief sources of pollutants. Now next question is, thermal pollution of water bodies is due to discharge of hot water from power plants, discharge of chemicals from industries, discharge of waste from mining, or discharge of agricultural runoff, or all of these. So as we have discussed, the answer for thermal pollution will be discharge of hot water or the heated water from power plants. So that will disrupt the flora and fauna, and ultimately the water will be unfit for any use. Then which of the following is a biodegradable pollutant? So we discussed about different categories of pollutants. Which of these will be biodegradable? Sewage, plastic, polythene, or DDT? So obviously sewage will be the biodegradable pollutant among all these. Now high coliform count in water is an indicator of industrial pollution, sewage contamination, hardness of water, or oil pollution. So now coliforms are basically bacteria which resides within the animals and humans. So they are basically present inside the bodies of animals and humans. So if you are having coliform count in water, so what will it indicate? And this schematic is here to represent the total coliforms, fecal coliforms. So total coliforms are basically, they consist of the entire group, and these are indicator organisms which indicate water pollution. Now fecal coliforms, they include all kinds of fecal bacteria plus E. coli. So E. coli is a representative or an indicator organism again. So which of these will be correct when we talk about high coliform count in water? So it will be obviously sewage contamination, because coliforms are present inside the human and animal bodies. So it will be it will be released out as sewage, and when this sewage will come in contact with water, that is an indication of that will contaminate it. So it is basically an indication of fecal contamination. Now BOD test is conducted to measure air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, or soil pollution. So we discussed about the BOD, that is being done to measure water quality or water pollution. Now BOD is a measure of industrial waste poured into water body, extent to which water is polluted with organic compound, amount of carbon monoxide inseparably combined with hemoglobin, or the amount of oxygen needed by green plants during night. So BOD is basically measuring the extent of organic pollution of water. So it will be the answer will be B. Extent to which water is polluted with organic compounds. What is the full form of BOD? Biological oxygen demand, biochemical oxygen demand, biotic oxygen demand, or biological oxygen deficiency. So the answer will be B, because the full form is biochemical oxygen demand. Now the next question is, which regions of seas or oceans are likely to be the most polluted? Estuarine, coastal, sea depths, or coral reefs? So when we talk about a sea or ocean, which will be the most polluted area? So the answer will be B, coastal, because it is the region which is in contact with the humans. So obviously most pollution will be due to anthropogenic activity, and that will be at the coastal area only. Now the last question is, estimate the average chlorophyll A concentration in a North American lake during the summer if the average spring total phosphorus is 0.108 mg per liter. So I have already provided you with the relation. You have been provided with total phosphorus concentration as 0.108 mg per liter, and you have to just put it in the relation and calculate the average chlorophyll A concentration. So the detailed answer for this we'll discuss in the next session. So that was all for today's session. So this was the theoretical concept or theoretical part relating to water pollution and the disease part. In the next session, we'll discuss the wastewater treatment strategies and the various stages of wastewater treatment, and the assignment to that session will be purely numerical based. Right? So thank you for your attention during this session.